Good morning and welcome to Inside South Florida. I'm Dave Azer. Today, an exciting new study being done at the Delray Medical Center may help people overcome traumatic brain injury. Plus, there's a great local film by a local filmmaker that's screening at the Miami International Film Festival. We'll tell you all about it. And we'll have your complete social calendar for everything you need to do this March. That and more as Inside South Florida starts now. There's an exciting new study being done at the Delray Medical Center which deals with the effects a hormone may have on treating brain injuries, and the results could lead to a medical breakthrough. Here's the hospital's neurosurgery director, Dr. Lloyd Zucker. Dr. Zucker, good to have you here. How are you?
Good morning.
All right, so let's talk about progesterone, because I could try to explain it, but people would be more confused than when I opened my mouth in the first place, which is why you're here, the expert. So what is progesterone?
It is a female sexual hormone.
Okay.
Which makes it sound kind of strange that we would give it to people with head injury, but as opposed to other hormones that are in the body, progesterone receptors actually exist in males and females in the nervous system.
So how is it, gosh, it's kind of a complicated question, but why is it that we're using progesterone now? What was the process, like the aha moment when people were like, oh, this might work?
Aha moment started about 20 years ago when somebody at Emory in Georgia was looking at an animal model, which is where these things usually start, and saw that female rats that were injured in a particular fashion did better than male rats that were injured in the same fashion.
Interesting.
Then they took the same female rats and injured them at different times during their menstrual cycle, and when the progesterone was higher, they did better. So there's that kind of aha moment. Unfortunately, things don't always go from animal models to human models. And so it started in a very stepwise fashion to look at, is it safe to use in humans? Am I going to turn you into a
female rat? Or
buxom rat, yes, exactly. Or is it going to be safe or not? So the first step is to say, yes, it's safe.
Right.
Second step is to do a small study looking at what's the right dose. When they have that kind of nailed down, then the best thing to do is to design a study that the person that's giving it, the person that's getting it, the person that's evaluating it, all don't know whether or not the patient has gotten the drug, because you don't want any bias in the evaluation.
And that takes us to where we are now with your hospital, right?
Correct.
So let's talk about it. Tell me what's going on, what you guys are doing.
When Delray Medical Center became a level 1 trauma center, which is part of the gradings of the way trauma centers are set up, level 1 is the top tier. We applied for enrollment in this study. They were only using level 1 trauma centers. There's approximately 150 centers nationally and internationally. There's probably at the end of the study going to be between 1,500 and 1,800 patients. Basically, if you had the misfortune of coming to the hospital, every head injury is graded by a particular scale called the Glasgow Coma Scale. If you fall within a particular range, particular age, and you have a certain level of function, you become a potential candidate. So obviously you're unconscious at that point in time.
Sure.
I can't sit and talk to you. I need to find a family member or power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, within an 8-hour window from the time the injury began.
Let me stop you there. So if it's more than 8 hours, it's not going to work anyway? It's kind of too late at that point?
Every study has to set its initial endpoints to see if it works within that initial window. I'm sure that as we move forward, the company will probably look at extending that window, but you want to limit the number of variables that you have. Okay. And so the choice from the experimental models was 8 hours.
And what exactly are you hoping happens here? In other words, someone comes in and they've sustained, I guess, brain trauma, right?
Correct.
Okay. So without it, what, they would be kind of like in a vegetative state, and now with progesterone, they'd have full function, partial function? What's kind of best case scenario?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Right?
I mean, that's the question we're trying to answer. We are what's called a phase 3 trial, which is the trial that occurs largest volume before things get submitted to the FDA for approval. The phase 2 trial, which was smaller, basically looked at patients that were poor, fair, or good in terms of outcome. And patients that didn't get progesterone versus patients that did, the ones that did, there was a shift from the poor and fair toward good. Now, how good obviously remains open to question, but a patient who's functioning at that good level has a level of independency that a patient in the fair or poor does not. So obviously we're trying to take that vegetative group and at least bring them some part of the way back.
Is there controversy or sort of some turmoil between Big Pharma and this because it's a hormone and it's not a drug? Is that come into play at all here?
Well, I think that if you look at Big Pharma, research and development is huge. And as any business, they're going to look for a return on their investment. There's no return on progesterone. It's easily available. It would be one of those non-formulary branded drugs that only one company could make. So it really took a couple of other companies looking at different ways to deliver it as opposed to the drug itself to kind of spice up the market to the point that they started looking at it.
Yeah. Do you have a gut feeling how this may play out, how successful this may be? Any idea?
You're asking me to tread on dangerous ground, but
yeah, semantics, be careful.
That being said, we've enrolled, I think, either 8 or 9 patients at the present point in time. The ones that have done well have done very well.
Right.
Obviously, 9 patients is a very small grouping. There was what's called a midterm analysis. At about 800 patients, the company stopped the study and broke open the data. We're not entitled to that, but they looked at the internal data. They're looking for either some significant risk that says the study should be stopped,
okay,
some overwhelmingly, my gosh moment positive that it should be broken and released early, or let's continue it. And it was the let's continue it. They didn't find any extreme risk. It wasn't as if these patients were being harmed by the medication. It appears that the hypothesis is being proven, and so it looks like the study may actually end in April.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think kind of long-term big picture is of all this? Let's say this turns out to work, at least on some level. What are the ramifications?
Well, it's huge because we're looking at severe head injury. If you look at head injury, it's, as we talked about, graded as the severe, the moderate, and the mild. If it works in the severe, does it work in the moderate? Then if we step out of head injury in a traumatic sense, and we start looking at the demographics of our population, is it neuroprotective in stroke? We have ways to break down the clot and provide blood flow back to an area, but we haven't necessarily protected the brain tissue. We've just given its blood flow back. So if this is in combination with something, so there are huge potential areas of exploration.
All from a female hormone in a rat.
All from a female hormone in a rat.
Okay, well, whatever it takes, right? But this is some potentially really exciting, groundbreaking stuff.
I've been doing this for 25 years since residency. I've been involved in 2 other trials on experimental products that were being developed for neuroprotection. Nothing's worked. Right. And to have something, anything, is huge. To have something that appeared to have been staring us in the face the whole time is even more huge. So we're very excited to be part of participating in it.
Well, best of luck, and if people want to get more information about it, how can they do that?
I think probably the best thing is to contact the hospital. Certainly they have to be aware that this is not something where if you had an injury days, weeks, months, years ago, right, that you can be a candidate for it. But in order to stay in touch with what's going on and future developments, I'm sure Delray will have resources for that, and they can certainly contact me.
All right, well listen, thanks for coming in. Just really fascinating, exciting stuff.
My pleasure, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. When we come back, a local filmmaker has a colorful and provocative documentary that you could see at the Miami International Film Festival, and who knows, maybe at next year's Oscars. We'll meet with them when we come back next.